being here. This is the Lake Ponderay School District number 84, regular board meeting number 810. Today is March 10th, it's 5 p.m. And we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have Washington Elementary here to help us. Please rise and remove your hats if you have one.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion for that.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as published.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. Next up, we have Washington Elementary School presentation. We have Principal Tasha Hamer. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm Tasha Hamer, and I'm proud to represent Washington Elementary tonight. In the fall of 2020, we made an exciting decision at Washington Elementary and swapped out our traditional computer lab for outdoor education. Washington has been the forerunner in this movement, and today all elementary schools in the LPOSD have a piece of outdoor education in their master schedule. And tonight, I am welcoming a handful of Cougars to talk about why they love outdoor education, and their wonderful teacher leader, Ms. Howley, is here tonight, who brings energy and creativity and enthusiasm and makes this program what it is. And so we're going to kick it off with a great video that connects you to a trust way for us, and then we're going to hear from the kiddos.
We live in the most beautiful part of the entire country. And to be able to have our students recognize it and be able to go out into the wilderness and outdoors to appreciate where they live, it starts really young. Hi, I'm Becky Meyer. I'm the superintendent of the Lake Ponderay School District. Outdoor education started real small, thanks to Tasha Hamer, principal at Washington Elementary. She started with Hallie, and they started outdoor education. Since then, we have expanded. All elementaries have one little touch of outdoor education now, and we want it to expand and expand and expand until it's full-time in all schools. So it's really an opportunity for our students to love and appreciate the great outdoors where we live. We want outdoor ed to be able to start students in kindergarten and go all the way through their senior years so they can appreciate the outdoors anywhere they live when they leave Sandpoint. We have the mountain, we have the lake, so many activities to do. And the more we can get students to really appreciate where they live and the beauty of being outdoors, it not only helps students long-term to create longevity and be able to have sustainable exercise and activity they do as they get older, but it creates more healthy individuals. They'll eat healthier, they'll exercise, they'll really value and see the benefit of keeping themselves in shape and in touch with all the wilderness where we live. I love outdoor education. I'm a huge proponent of it. Any way we can get students out of the classroom and into a classroom outside, it's a beautiful day.
Isn't that nice?
That's
Nick
so
Sue
cool.
made that for us. Yeah, they came out and took some footage. It was awesome. So what some people are curious about is what outdoor ed is. And it's a kind of a big scope, and which is nice because we have a lot of flexibility. So, for example, I have a couple of examples. It might be applying physics, doing some fort building. It might be, for my school, we walk to the Arboretum and take data and apply the scientific method. We do poetry and sketching, so we have some art and literacy. Lots of problem solving and teamwork. You saw them tying knots, so there's a lot of fine and gross motor skills. We take them down to the Memorial Boat Launch and discuss the mountains and the watersheds and why the lake rises and falls, and we explore the ice. They also have to build a lot of resiliency. You know, they're out there, they're colder than usual, there's no heat, maybe their socks got wet, maybe they got a little splinter. So there's a lot of emotional regulation opportunity and a lot of self-reflection opportunity. I'm saying that very nicely.
Not what my dad called it.
It's a great place for self-regulation, and including for myself. It's nice to know how to go out in nature and calm yourself and see things through different perspectives. I like to use an example of a student I had. I'll call him Nathan because, you know, we want to keep things confidential. Nathan started, I think it was first grade, and he hated outdoor ed. He would cry, he would run away, he would make excuses to try and go in the building every single time. And he was extremely fearful of insects, which are inherent. You can see in my 10th classroom there, there's always beetles and spiders under the wood chips, and he would be hysterical, sometimes almost hyperventilating, so I would get an assistant to help me. And he talked about video games a lot, and, you know, kind of a typical child. And now, Nathan seeks me out to ask me what we're gonna do in outdoor ed on any given day. I had him holding bugs in his hand. He's in 4th grade now, with a hand lens, calmly and with curiosity and openness to that. And I asked him what he likes to do outside now. And he told me every day he goes out and plays with his dog. And he didn't bring up video games once, not that there's anything wrong with that, but to me that's a huge win, you know, and that's part of the legacy we're building here at LPOSD, and we're definitely a front runner in this unique situation, and I feel really grateful for it, and I hope that you have the chance to see more about the programs going on in all the schools. We have a lot of really qualified educators teaching out there. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Felix Bennett in the 5th grade, and I will be talking about all the fun activities Miss Hallie lets us do, such as making mandalas, which are little creations on a stump that are symmetrical on either side. And also Miss Hallie lets us do even more fun stuff, like walking down to the lake, and in the wintertime studying the ice, seeing how cold it got last night and what happened with the weather. And in the summertime, we can go down and dip our heads in the water, and those are the fun things she lets us do.
Hi, I'm Taylor Maples in 5th grade, and I've been enjoying outdoor ed since I was in kindergarten. One fun thing we get to do in outdoor ed is yarn making from wool. You make the yarn by picking the wool, then combing it, and then spinning it. And then after that, you can knit it or spin it to see who can make the longest one. Another fun thing we get to do is journaling, where we make nature observations, and we can sketch different things, like leaves and mushrooms.
Hi, I'm Abby in the 5th grade, and some of my favorite activities during outdoor ed are the games. I like one game is called Run Deer Run and the other is called Fire and Force. I also really like tying the knots that Miss Hallie teaches us, which are very useful for just out in the woods and buildings. Hi, I'm Olivia Decker, and I'm in 4th grade, and I have been participating in outdoor ed for 3 years. Some of my favorite things in outdoor ed is how Miss Hallie takes us on nature walks, and she teaches us about birds, plants, clouds, and other things like that, and it is very fun. I'm McKinley Decker in 5th grade. I've been doing outdoor ed for 3 years, and I love it. One of my favorite things in outdoor ed is where we get to build in the building zone. We build with rocks, sticks, leaves, and ropes, and we usually make forts and rope swings, and we get to stack rocks, and we build stuff like that. That's one of my favorite things in outdoor ed.
Hi, my name is Katya, and I'm in 6th grade, and I've been going to outdoor ed for 5 years. My very favorite thing about outdoor ed is after we get a huge snow dome, we get to build all sorts of things. We can build snowmen, we use snow paint to paint in the snow, and we sled down the pile created by the snow cloud. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
We're missing some snow this year.
We pulled sleds on the
Yeah.
grass the other day.
Yeah.
Still fun.
Me
Still
too.
fun.
I don't have any. You guys have any?
No.
Very good. Looks like a fantastic program. I'm really excited that you guys are doing it. I went to Washington when I was your age, and we didn't have all that cool stuff, so I'm really excited for you guys. Thank you.
Outside is always better.
Thank you.
We do have, before you escape, we've got some goodies. I know that you guys already maybe got one.
Shelby's gonna get a picture of that.
Yeah.
Pretty low bar.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got those? You're in charge. You have to share. Don't spill them. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want one.
Just so you guys know, any parents that were here for the Washington Elementary that don't want to hang out for the rest of everything that's going on, you are welcome to leave, and you will not be judged by your peers. But we already have that. That's if you wanted one. Okay, so next up we have our school nurse, Christina Gavin, and she's going to go over our LPOSD nursing grant group.
Okay, so my name is Christina Gavin. You guys all know me, but most of you there don't. I am one of 2 school district nurses. And so when I started with the school district, this is my 4th year. Stop the Bleed was really important. In my background, I came from the health district, so we did a lot of stuff with Stop the Bleed. Well, at that time, we only had bleeding kits in most of our schools. We had like a big ball kit. So one initiative that I started was trying to get grants for our schools. And there's a list of grants that over the last 4 years that we've been able to secure in our schools. So with the help of all those grants, one grant was from Panhandle Alliance for Education. One was from Northern Idaho Healthcare Coalition. Our local NRA, National Rifle Association, provided us a grant as well. And then the Bureau of EMS and Preparedness. So over the years, particularly this year, all of our classrooms and every room in our school that would have students in it all have what we call a Stop the Bleed kit. Okay, so all the kids are in a red bag like this so that they are easily identified. In most of our classrooms too, teachers have they have a folder that they have in there, and it has their emergency information for their classroom and everything. But you guys can see in your kits, all of our kits have a tourniquet, which is super important if we have a bleeding emergency. And these are actually CAT certified tourniquets. If anyone knows anything about tourniquets, these are the best kind to use because they're not going to break. They're going to be very useful to use. So in the kits also is 2 sets of gloves and then some wound packing gauze. So obviously I don't want you guys to open up the wound packing gauze or anything like that because we want it to stay sterile. So I just brought some examples. The wound packing gauze would be something like, something like this that can roll apart, or that in there is actually called a Z-fold. But anyways, that can be packed into any wound. And then also in there, and obviously you guys know what gloves are used for. in this, please don't open that either, because we want it to stay sealed, because those are actually kits from classrooms, they're not just extra. But anyway, that looks kind of like a dressing like this, that we all know what that looks like. But in it has like a thicker bandage part, and you can wrap that over a wound too to help stop bleeding and everything. So, and there's lists you what's in those kits. So like I said, every classroom, even like the counselor's office or the office area has these kits, so that we can help protect our kiddos, because obviously safety is one of our big initiatives, and we want to keep all of our kiddos safe. On top of that, right now we are working on training all of our school staff, so that every single staff member is trained in how to use this equipment. We're not just giving it to them and saying, here you go. So we're working through all of our schools right now and training each and every staff member, and they will physically get to hands-on use those tourniquets on training equipment to see, so that they can simulate how to use everything. So, okay, all right. Any questions or anything of me?
Sure. I would just like to publicly acknowledge Nurse Christina. She has been working tirelessly, and we're really one of the first districts that has a Stop the Bleed kit. Obviously, I say with safety, the more prepared we are, I hope the less we need it. But this is something that we thought were going to be like 5 years out, and because of her grant writing ability, she has a magic touch, and really reaching out to people and continuing. She's written grant after grant. We are way ahead of the curve in where we planned in our 5-year plan. So a lot of it has to do with her dedication, and so I would just like everyone to give her a round of applause for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have the financial update with our CFO, Brian Wallace. Good evening, Mr. Wallace.
Good evening, Chair Williams, board members, Dr. Meyer. The finance report is here, similar format as previous months. I did, for just looking at our revenues and expenditures for the general fund, but this month we did receive our February payment, so that you can see the dollars that we received, almost $5 million for the foundation program, which is just a generous apportionment. And also our transportation operations money also came in at $2.1 million, which is a little better than $136,000 more than budget, so that was good. That was on the positive side of the ledger. On the expenditure side, again, it's very similar for now, the way we're tracking every month. The spending is real similar, about $4 million a month, and it's not going to change that much. Well, actually it will. Later in this meeting, there's a move forward curriculum adoption. There will be a month where there's a higher check that will be written. The next slide, you can just see as we're tracking up there that we're about halfway through the year as far as salaries and benefits. Through February, still have to pay salaries through August for this year for most staff. So, but we're right in line with budget, so that's good. On the other monthly spending side, again, just to reiterate how much our general fund is dominated by salaries and benefits. That's more a typical percentage, at 85 to 88% every month. And then just the rest is just our material supplies and purchase services and a few capital purchases out of the general fund this month. Revenues by source, you can see revenues, we're getting near, have most of our collections for the year. We'll have, on the state side, we get some dollars in May, a May payment, and then in July, they sort of true up where our true attendance, and those finally will come in. The other major dollars that will come in will be our supplemental levy, and that comes in also in July. Then it gets credited to this school. Right. Enrollment, we are, when compared to last year, and even last month, we're up a little bit, so that's good. When we look at those comparisons, enrollment's held pretty good, honestly, all year, so that's good from the fiscal perspective, because the more kids we have, the more state portion we get. So we're holding our own in that regard and very close to budget. And then finally, just a couple items of note. We're starting to develop the budget. Some of our planning, what to really finalize things and move forward, we have to wait for the legislature, and they're still doing their work. But on the things we can't control, department leaders submitted their operating non-employee costs. Just on that, we sort of asked, are you able to identify 5%? They were able to do that in their areas, which is good. On the school building budget, we are going to, on the formula, we're reducing the per student number by 5%. So if they get more kids, they may get more money, but the actual formula is reduced a little bit. Yeah. We'll continue to look at staffing levels as we get resignations, retirements. The question is, do we need to replace that position? If we're not able, then we can make those adjustments. We're looking at that on ways that maybe we can save some dollars and backfill and not impact current employees. We're not anticipating that, but that's sort of an ongoing. We do that annually, but definitely this year we're looking at it pretty close. But no final decisions have been made on some of those. And then finally, a legislative update. This week, the JFAC was supposed to sort of pass the final budgets for the public schools budget on the 9th, but they delayed that. They, earlier this session, had set a target date that they would be done with everything by March 12th, which is in a couple of days, so they may not, looks like they may not make that their deadline, or they don't have to. It was sort of the one they set. But hopefully they should get through their work pretty soon. The sooner that they land where they're going, it's easier for us to then do our planning work. We do know that the way some of the funding formula works, medical discretionary funding per unit is going to increase 10.8%, which is good. On the not so good side is that our expenses likely will probably exceed those new revenues. We're anticipating a pretty good hit to the cost for medical insurance. We haven't got that number yet though. And then we're just sort of planning that all of the state funding line items, which are quite a few line items, we're just going by what they sort of said, that it's going to be flat, and they're sort of using the same formulas and numbers they used last year, so that's, assuming we have about the same amount of kids, we should have about the same amount of revenues on those items, and that's sort of how we're planning to move forward. But that's all I have for the finance report. Just here for any questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Assistant Superintendent Casey McLaughlin with our graduation parade.
So last month I had the opportunity, so thanks for having me up here again, but I had the opportunity to present our winter data update, and there's just an update to the update, just really briefly. But if you'll go ahead and scroll to the next line. So if you look, last month we talked about One Trusted Adult, we talked about our student achievement, but the thing we did not have back yet was our graduation rate. And so if you scroll to the next slide, that has since come back in the last couple of weeks, and we're really excited because overall you can see our district, how it's changed. Last year we were at, and of course this is a year prior, right? It's always, we're always working with the prior year. So 23-24 we were at 86.2%, and then as of last year is the most recent, we're at 91.2%. So we're up 5%, which is really a big celebration for our district. It's one of those big things that we hang our hats on. Overall in the state, you can see the number is 82.3% for the average graduation rate for high schools. Lake Pend Oreille School District, our district, of course, is sitting at that 91.2%. Sandpoint High School, 92.2%. Lake Pend Oreille High School, it's pretty exciting. They went up from 50% to 80.8%. That was I know we had presented in the fall, but this was an area that we were really working on. And then Clark Fork High School is at 96.2%. So that's really, the last one there. That's really all I have, just a quick update to that data. Unless you have any questions for me.
I just wish that we could count one more year. Some of those kids graduate in 5 years.
5 years.
And that actual graduation rate is even higher.
Right. We have those. We do have those numbers.
Yeah.
And so it is. I agree. It is interesting to see at this stage.
But it's good. I'm happy to see that we're above the norm and trending in the right direction.
You definitely
Yeah.
have some. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next up, we have Dr. Becky Meyer with the superintendent report. And some green.
Absent. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
First off, I just want to apologize. Unfortunately, I'm going through chemotherapy, so I have to wear a mask. I'm not supposed to be in public, but I wanted to be here for this presentation, so I do have a mask on. It might be harder to hear me, but normally I'm out there, and I normally go in the audience and introduce myself and talk to the parents and stuff and the students, so I apologize for that. We're going to do a short superintendent report and then a little bit of information about Lake Conroe High School. So, first thing is our theme for the day, for the year, is Green Light to Shine. So, it is rather bright, but it is really having everyone live up to their green light to shine and expanding past their opportunity that they even think possible, which a perfect demonstration is LPO's graduation rate, up to 80% is phenomenal. First off, I want to thank trustee Jalen Peters, has served on the board. He's been here the whole time that I've been back as a superintendent. It's been a blessing and an honor to serve with you. You've given so many behind-the-scenes contributions to this board and the district and the students. I don't think everybody even realizes how much you've done. Countless hours, no pay on the board, and we are really going to miss you. And I just wanted to give you a gift. And thank you for, so if everyone could thank him for that. Yes, it is a lot of hours and we really appreciate it, Jalen, and wish you the best of luck. So our strategic plan, there's 4 areas, 4 buckets I like to say. The center of everything we do is the students, every student, every day, what is best for students for all our decisions. The first bucket was safe schools and facilities. Just wanted to give an update on CTEC. It's coming along very nicely. The doors are in. It's right on schedule, scheduled to be done in June so that students will be able to go into CTEC in the fall. Recruit and retain quality staff. I want to thank Dalton Hawkins from Sandpoint High School, and he does esports, he does some math and computer science and helps with technology. Our first ever Ed Tech Educator of the Year for our district, and he puts in tons of hours and times. He's wonderful, and we just want to congratulate him for one in the state. I mean, he is the top one in the state, so it's quite an honor.
That's cool.
Improving student connection. So student-led conferences were last Friday, and it is my favorite day of the year. Students taking really a lot of pride and ownership in their work. These are just a few of the pictures, but it was just wonderful. Principals have really reported back. I wasn't able to be my first time of missing it, but my students, my kids, my own kids went through it way back there, 27 and 28 now, but this has been really a cornerstone of Lake Conroe School District. I think it really demonstrates how much our students care about their own education in our district. So a shout out to all the families that went, and principals and teachers and students that participated. Just wonderful. We did have the 100th day of school. There's a lot of fun. Shelby did a video. Shelby is our new community relations liaison, and she did a video. If you click on it later, you'll be able to see a really fun video. And then I can't go without saying, second year in a row, back-to-back academic champions. Of course, we always love, TJ, we always love championship and state championships, but we are an educational district, and to have students win academic state champions means that they have really great grades and they're competing as athletes. So I just want to give a huge shout out to this team and thank them for their dedication. It's just amazing. Fostering community connection. I'm just gonna give a plug again. I have been for several months, and we sent out, principals are sending out this week, our new flyer that Shelby made for us. But we're really partnering with parents and reinforcing student well-being. It's taking these two buckets and melding them together. And this is the, just fresh off the press today, our Student Safety Summit is on April 15th for all parents K through 12. And there's gonna be separate breakout sessions with covering student mental health and well-being, suicide awareness and prevention, and then supporting your child through a faith-based lens. Trustee Jalen Peters is coming up to help, and we have a youth pastor also from Cedar Hills. So they're gonna provide that, and which will be a nice, I've had a lot of requests for that, so I'm happy that we're able to provide that information as well. And then also, thanks to Bonner General Health and Connexu Community Health, we are gonna have free food, so it'll be dinner. People can go straight from work here. There'll be dinner for the family and free childcare. Sandpoint High School has teens. We've done it for the last, this will be our 4th annual one, and they provide free childcare, so young families can come as well. So get that on your calendar. Just reminding you that the loop's out. If you're new and you haven't seen, you can click on that where it says the loop, and you can see any past edition of the loop. And thank you to Shelby. She just started a couple of weeks and got her first edition out. She did a tremendous job, and we're really excited to have her. So Shelby Strews is who that is. In the middle of everything we do, student learning has to be the top. Just reminding the boards, Dr. McLaughlin already covered this, so I'm not going to go through the data for today. But by law, I need to give you the open enrollment report. For anybody who hasn't seen this before, there's the 2 laws that are there. You can look through those if you'd like. The board just needs to see, as of March 2nd, this was our enrollment. And as of March 2nd, these were our open spaces available. If it has a negative number, that means we're over what the board approved as a class average, and those classrooms cannot accept open enrollment. As a reminder, once a student, with the new law that was passed, once a student has been in our school district, the second for 2 years, then they become one of our students, even if they have lived outside of our district. Once we've accepted them and they are in good standing, they stay with our district, and then they don't have to apply for open enrollment anymore. Okay, any questions about that? All right. Coming back to the reason we're here, the center of everything we do, students, every student, every day. It's right on the board, on the wall up there above us. So we'd like to present some information tonight for you, the facts and the why, the student enrollment trend, and a funding overview. So unfortunately, and I haven't read it, I don't have social media, but I was told that there was a lot of misinformation printed and put out into the online presence. So it's really important that people have the facts before they have an opinion and make decisions. We need to make sure that everyone has the facts. So we're going to start with that. First of all, as I said, even though people might not understand all the factors that went up to making a decision, every decision we make must, in this district, be based on what's best for students. It has to be based on what is best for the students. So in this case, the decision that we've made about LPOHS, which we will go into, was based on 2 things. One is for the ability for them to meet graduation requirements, and for them to be able to have, all students need to have access to elective opportunities and full elective opportunities. A fact is, LPOHS, the school, is not going away. That was a rumor. I'm not sure how it started, but it is not going away. And there has been no decision, not on the agenda, there's been no decision about the LPOHS building or the property. That is, there's been no decision made on that, nor a recommendation on that at all. So in 2026-27, which is next school year, LPOHS will stay on the current campus And then buses will transport the students to the electives that are at Sandpoint High School and CTEC. So they have access to all CTEC programs, welding, construction, nursing, computer science, drafting, everything that there is to offer. Art, theater, sign language, anything that there may be to offer. The following year, Lake Pend Oreille High School is being moved to a location to create their own campus it's adjacent to the Pine Street Field. That will be able to offer access, so they'll have access to all elective opportunities. They'll have access to all CTEC programs, and there will be no loss of instructional time. So one of the downfalls is next year, there will be a loss of instructional time because to get from the bus ride over to the campus. So there will be a loss of instruction time, which creates a lack of equality. Now, there's really no way around it because Sandpoint Middle School's construction project, which they have jammed into a summer, a school year, and another summer, they are using all of the portables, all of the driver's ed building, everything that they need to, the annex and everything, in order to keep kids in school, on campus, and do the process in sections. So that is one of the downsides of next school year for the LPOHS students. Dr. McLaughlin is going to tell you about some student enrollment trends.
So as you can see, I collected the student enrollment for the last several years, for the last 3 years, since 23-24, and I want to point out a few different things that it shows. If you notice at the beginning of every year, the students usually start, and I took that number at about the second week of September, and so if you notice the first in 23-24 at the very bottom, it shows 88 students. Typically, LPOHS gets a bump in student enrollment after the first semester is over, so going into the second semester. A lot of those students come from Sandpoint High School, but they get that pretty significant bump usually in enrollment. And you'll see that it says 101 there, and 23-24. It goes from 82 to 85 students on March 3rd of 24-25, and then March 3rd of this year went from 67 students to start to 76. You'll notice that what follows that on a typical pattern is that at the end of each school year, that enrollment drops some. Not always right back to where it was, but it did in 24-25. This year, of course, we are not sure where that will go, whether it'll stay steady or whether there will be some drop. Historically, there is some drop of students. Now, what do we project for 26-27? If we move forward all the numbers, not projecting any drops, let's say we just stay flat and the students stay at 76, what we project is that the 13 freshmen will move forward to become 13 sophomores, 14 sophomores will move forward to become 14 juniors, and then of course the juniors, the 22 will become 22 seniors. So that would give us a total of 49 students. When you look at our freshmen, what I did, and this is completely a guess, but what I did is I took the average of the last 2 years, between 5 and 9 where we started, and so I started at 7. So I took that number because it seems fairly consistent. It could be higher, it could be lower, and I ended up with a total of 56. So that's where we're looking student enrollment wise, so you can see where we've progressively, and you can see that progressive decline in enrollment. So if you go to the next slide. So this isn't all negative. Okay, this is actually fairly positive district-wide as a trend. What we want to see is we want to see LPOHS thrive, and we also want Sandpoint High School to continue to grow in enrollment. And that is exactly what's happening. Sandpoint High School's enrollment is up, and we see less students leaving there to go to Lake Pend Oreille High School. This isn't a bad thing. We see what they're doing in terms of what we call MTSS and individualized education programs, making sure that students are not falling through the cracks, making sure that students, they have a Flex Friday program now, which incentivizes students to be getting their work done and to come for extra help on Fridays when necessary and when needed. So there are a lot of positives to that. In addition, we are seeing students who, for the electives and for CTEC, are choosing to stay at Sandpoint High School. What we want to do is then offer those elective opportunities for every student in the district and make those accessible for all. So currently on the projected students, if we take the freshmen, the sophomores, and the juniors that are currently projected to be at Lake Pend Oreille High School next year, 39 of those 49 students have signed up for a variety of electives at Sandpoint High School, right? They will be bused, but they have signed up for those courses.
Okay, and then Brian Smith.
And my name is Brian Smith. I'm a teacher in the school district. I'm also the president of the Local Education Association. And part of the question might be is why am I presenting right now? And part of the reason for that is Lake Pend Oreille, once they received this information, what the plan was going forward, what the future of the building, and the future of the school, they had a lot of questions, as you can imagine. And so they reached out to the staff of LPO, had a lot of questions. And so they reached out to Dr. McLaughlin and myself and asked us to come over and present some information to them. And so then I generated some things for them to be able to answer some of those questions. And so Dr. McLaughlin and Dr. Meyer both wanted the board to have that same kind of information that was presented to the staff. And so that's what this represents. Some of the questions that they asked, what is the enrollment trend at Lake Pend Oreille? And you saw that Dr. McLaughlin just presented that. You also, how does that actually affect the funding for the building? And that's what I'm going to talk about here as well. And then how does that compare when you look at how the staff generates revenue, how the state generates revenue, and how does that compare to other secondary schools within our school district? Okay, and so this first thing to explain a little bit, as you can see, we're part funded by enrollment and really ADA, average daily attendance, based on that enrollment. And Dr. McLaughlin showed you kind of a snapshot of 3 different periods of time throughout. Well, it's complicated because it's not just one day. They don't just give us a single day and say, February 27th is your day, that's what we're going to fund you on. They fund you over the course of the year, over multiple checks. And so in order to just get one number so that we could translate into funding, on which Brian Wallison asked what the net enrollment is, and that's a report that we get from the state. The state says for this particular school year, this was your net enrollment. You often see that number somewhere in the middle, right? It won't be the highest point, it often isn't the lowest point, right? It's that middle kind of number. And so then if you take that number, which is the first thing, which is the net enrollment of that building, and then you take the funded enrollment, which we'll talk about in a second, it generates a certain amount of units. That's how the state funds us. And then those units translate into teachers, pupil service staff like counselors and administrators. And so based on our current rate, and we also get that from the state, a unit is about $155,000, just under that. And so you can see in 2022-23 how much that generated at Lake Pend Oreille. Going into 2023-24, you can see, based on 2 factors, a drop, and that's where that $200,000 is. Now that's not just enrollment. There's actually a change in the law as well. During COVID, the state adopted a policy where we got full funding for enrollment. It wasn't based on average daily attendance for a few years. And then after that, there was a bill in the works to continue enrollment, but it ultimately didn't make it through the whole process. And so as a result of that, we went back to average daily attendance. That hurt all of our buildings, but it hurt Lake Pend Oreille High School in particular the most in our school district. And so when you look at that number, that 200,000, approximately half of that is a drop in enrollment, and the other half of it is the change from an enrollment funding to average daily attendance. Okay, you can see that it was fairly stable going into 24-25, but then you can see as that number of net enrollment goes down, the effect it ends up having on the funding we receive from the state. And so obviously 26-27 is not a no, that's not a for sure, that is based on what Dr. McLaughlin presented, what are the projections when you move forward the current students and kind of take the average additional students that we've added. But in that case, you can see over the last 3 years prior, it's about $350,000 less revenue that's being generated by Lake Pend Oreille High School. And if that number stays true in 2026-27, an additional $180,000 less in revenue for a total of over $500,000 over the course of that time. So that's kind of how enrollment and ADA affects our buildings and how it's currently the lower enrollment within that particular building is affecting the money and the revenue that is generated. The next question, again, that was asked too, is how does that compare to other buildings? And one approach to that is you could say, well, let's take the total amount we spend in those buildings. But that isn't necessarily fair, because you could take 2 staffs that generate exactly the same amount of units, but one staff has people higher on the pay scale and staff has one lower, and it would make it look like they were unequal. Well, that wouldn't be a fair way to compare it. Okay, it means, and so the way to compare it that's consistent is based on the units that building generates, because each unit generates a consistent amount of money. Now, there is a difference in the units between Lake Pend Oreille High School and Sandpoint High and Sandpoint Middle School. There's actually a richer revenue at Lake Pend Oreille High School. Instead of 18.5 to 1, meaning for 18.5 students to 1, then you get a unit. In the case of Lake Pend Oreille High, it's actually 12 to 1, so it's actually a richer formula, which is actually why we've been able to staff it with lower numbers but have higher levels of staffing. Unfortunately, the positive that I just said can also be a negative, and the reason why is it doesn't take as many students to lose to then affect the funding at a higher rate, because that formula is richer in that way. So 12 students less there is a big hit in that sense. And so what we can do is we can take a look at this. Those multipliers that are there, the first one is teachers, instructors. The second one, pupil service staff, counselors. The third one is administration, your principal. Okay, and then they generate the amount based on that unit, and it gets a number. And in this case, you can see 6.61. That's not the full thing, because the state has a policy that not only do the buildings have to generate the building staff, but they have to build coverage for district-wide staff. And so what you can see is a district PSS, that's district pupil service staff. Those are people like occupational therapists, physical therapists, our speech language pathologist, our psychologists, right? That aren't specifically building based, but are district-wide and sort of serve all our buildings. And so in order to basically take LPO's share, we've said their number of students compared to the number of students across our whole district. And that gets subtracted from their number. And then district administration, that's divided equally amongst our 11 buildings, and that's really 3 positions. That's your superintendent, your assistant superintendent, and your head of federal programs and SEC. Yes?
Is that proportionate? It's even across all the buildings?
In this case, that's evenly divided,
it's
yeah.
evenly divided.
Right, and again, these are a way to quantify it. The state doesn't say you have to do it this way, right? You could say a smaller building actually has a higher percentage of need of the psychologist, and you could actually give them a higher number. But in order to just say population to number, we thought that was kind of the fairest way to present that, without knowing the individual needs of this small school versus this large school versus this medium school.
Right.
But when it came to the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and even though that's a fairly small number comparatively, the thought is those 3 are involved, those 3 positions are involved in all 11 buildings.
All places, yep.
Right, so what you can see then, when you subtract those, it generates about 6 actual staff. The current staff is 8, and so you can see the difference. And again, none of our buildings are overstaffed, but this is how we generate revenue. So when you're comparing revenue to what is generated, that's where the 33% difference comes in at Lake Pend Oreille High School. You can take the same thing at Sandpoint High. You'll notice there's one additional column there. It's the SEC column. And the reason why that column doesn't exist for LPO is for a certain percentage of your students, not all of our SEC students, only a certain percent, we're allowed to use a richer formula, 14.5 to 1 instead of the 18.5, but there's no reason to do that at LPO because they're already 12 to 1. So that would actually hurt us to use our students there. And so you have to add those 2 things to get Sandpoint High, and again, the same process, you get to 66.4, you subtract out, again, the greater portion that Sandpoint High has in terms of the district pupil service staff. Again, those are the psychologists, the speech language pathologists. Subtract out the district-wide admin, and you can see the allocation versus the actual staff, and then the percentage difference. And so that was one of the things they had asked for as a comparison. I also presented Clark Fork, which is in the single digits, and I also presented Sandpoint Middle School to the staff as well, which is a little bit over now, but the projection is 42 more students next year, which would also bring Sandpoint Middle School, with that combined with adjustments that are occurring in that staffing as well, to single digits in that particular building. So with that all being said, I know that a school is far more than just numbers. I just wanted to reiterate that since this was information that was presented to the staff, both Dr. Meyer and Dr. McLaughlin wanted me to share that same information with the board, so you have that as well.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
Brian.
you.
Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, so seeing the numbers and the enrollment trend, the declining enrollment, that people have asked, why are you keeping this open? I mean, why don't you just shut it down? Why can't these students go into Sandpoint High School, Clark Fork, into another program? Are you being fiscally responsible with the taxpayer dollars by keeping something running so much in the red? And I emphatically say yes. I emphatically recommend that we keep LPOHS open. It is not about the money. Brian just said that. It's not. I was at Lake Pondere High School for 5 years. I was the principal, and I lived within Lake Pondere High School, and I know what a difference it makes. And I know that the students, when they go to Lake Pondere High School and they graduate, some of my very best days I've had in my entire career were at graduation, when students who never thought that they would ever make it to graduation, several were the first in their entire family to ever graduate. And the staff and the dedication that they give to all of those students, each and every single, I mean, they live the mission, every single student, every day. Every single student matters, and their family system and working with their families. It is imperative, not only for our district, but for our entire community, that Lake Pondere High School stays open. The students' self-confidence and their self-efficacy when they graduate and they know that they can go out into the world and be a contributing member to our community, it is just vital, I think, not only just to our district, but to the greater community. The family feel at Lake Pondere High School is really that. I mean, there wasn't assemblies, there was family meetings. We had a mission, which has since been changed, but we had a long run-on sentence that was a mission that students would memorize, that they really felt and lived, and at the family meetings, people would volunteer to say the mission out loud. People showed up, people wanted to be there, and it was just different. It was some of the best years of my entire career, was the 5 years at Lake Pondere High School. And they contribute back, they do community service, they do a lot of service projects, and they really do, as a community, a school community, they not only give back, but what the staff gives them and supports them, they end up giving back. So I make a strong recommendation that LPOHS stays open and continues to provide the support for those students. I continue to applaud the staff for their dedication. They are absolutely go above and beyond to care for each and every one of the students. And really, in summary, LPOHS, Lake Pondere High School, is really more. It's really more than the building. It is all about the family feel, and the community and the culture that they create. It's about the people. It's about the students and the staff, and then wrapping around their arms around them with the services they provide. It's not about the place. It is really, truly about the people and what they do. And they go beyond what most staffs do. It's absolutely incredible, and I can't say enough great about the staff at LPO. I just can't. So for a timeline, and the board can certainly change this or direct us to do otherwise. You heard today at the March meeting, we presented the facts, the why, the student enrollment trend, and then a funding overview. Our plan is at the April board meeting to bring you the building, Lake Pondere building condition evaluation. We can bring deferred maintenance costs, transportation costs. We talked about the buses going back and forth. We can bring that cost to you. We do have to hire a driver for that to take place next year, and have a dedicated bus. We will give you a facilities overview, anything else the board would want, and then in May, we plan, if the appraisal will report back, we would bring that back to you, and anything else the board so desires. So we stand for questions if you have questions for any of us, and also if you'd like to request or change or add any additional information.
No, I really appreciate all this information, and I think, we've been talking about this quite a lot, and one of the main things is getting the facts out there. I know that there is a lot of misinformation. There's been a lot of attacks, personal attacks, a lot of just out and out falsehoods. And it's important that everybody knows exactly what's going on. There's a few different ways that I look at this. And you know, you can see this and go, appraisal report. Why are you guys getting it appraised unless you want to sell it? That is a state law. We have to get it appraised. We have to know what the value of it is. Why are you guys selling this? We're not. There's been a lot of that going around. We don't know what we're going to do with this property yet. But I can tell you right now in the discussions that I've had with everybody, it is our job as a board to foster this district's assets the best way that we possibly can. Under no circumstances can we make a decision that can hamstring a board in the future, especially when it comes to real property, especially real property in a resort town. There's a lot of places in this state that would love to have their school district to have control over a piece of property in the middle of their town that they can no longer afford and need. We're not going to do anything to jeopardize that. We also need to look at this as a success story, right? We have somewhere between 40 and 60 students in need of LPO HS next year. That is a success story compared to the hundreds that have needed it in the past. That means that there are more opportunities and more successes happening to help students from falling through the cracks. And again, being able to offer a wide breadth of elective opportunities that are not only great for our students, but also a state requirement that we will not be able to financially meet other than doing it this way. I know that the change is always tough, but we're going to be able to provide better opportunities for our students. And that is the goal always. I applaud everybody for digging in and doing this hard work. It's important. I know that the schools and education is not about numbers and dollars and cents, okay? But that factors into it, and it's important to look and say, yes, this number is declining rapidly. That red number of how deep we're running in the hole in this facility is getting bigger and bigger, and the deferred maintenance costs are getting larger and larger. One of the things that we want to know as a board is, okay, what are our costs? What does it cost to mothball this building until we know what else to do with this property? There's a lot of stuff that we have to figure out, but first and foremost, we have to provide the best options and education for our students, and this is what we have to do to make that happen. And these are not decisions that are made lightly. I understand that LPO HS is a community. It's near and dear to my heart. I have lots of people in my family that are near and dear to that program and have gone through that program. So this is not a we're closing this school and getting rid of it. This program is going to endure, and we're going to continue to provide what's needed for our students. I don't know if you guys have any questions of these guys, but
what was the after you discussed everything with the staff, what was their response to moving campuses potentially?
The response has been mixed, as you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of long-standing, right, connection with this building, and so the staff has changed a bit in the past. And I went over with them on Friday and looked at the potential new property, the new place location, and they brought up a list of ideas of how to make this theirs, right? How to make it a campus and how to make it feel like a totally separate entity and feel like this is LPOHS, right? So there's a list of different ideas that they're generating. I know we wanted to talk to students as well. So I can't fully speak for the staff. The staff's been amazing. I mean, and this has been really, really hard. So I don't want to pretend that this isn't really hard on them. This is very hard on them.
Sure.
This is not an easy thing for the staff. We've been asking a lot of them with this, and in the last few years, they've seen their staff shrink, and so it's been not an easy thing for staff for sure. So I don't want to gloss over that. I think that's a really big deal. So.
I also think it's important to understand and be open-minded. I know a lot of the pushback is on the campus itself, having a separate campus for this program. I know that that's important. I will also say that the pushback when we started the homeschool academy of people wanting nothing to do with public education, and now we have a thriving program that lives on that same campus under the umbrella of Lake Pend School District, and it serves over 120 families with a waiting list. A lot of those families didn't want anything to do with public education, except we can meet in the middle. There's value there and compromise that can be helpful to all parties. So I want there to be an open-minded approach to this and see, okay, let's look at this as an opportunity of what we can create that is special, not as, hey, this was just a huge loss. So, yeah, having no other questions, I appreciate you guys, your information, and Dr. Meyer, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm logging back in. But next up, we have public comment. We do have a fair amount of people signed up tonight. Just let you guys know, 3-minute time limit on those. And if we run into the same thing over and over and over again, you guys are obviously welcome to say what he said, what she said. That's totally fine. You are also more than welcome to use your entire 3 minutes. Just throwing that out there. Here's a little intro to this, okay? So the Board of Trustees welcomes patron comments from the community. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person and must be appropriate for an open forum. Input must not identify individual personnel or students or be abusive, defamatory, or obscene. The total time allotted for public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. This is a board meeting held in public, not a public board meeting, as governed by Idaho Code 33, Section 5. Thus, no discussion or responses can occur during the meeting. Issues may be referred to the proper staff person or committee for follow-up per the board discretion. Any complaint about the district, including instruction, discipline, district personnel policy, procedure, or curriculum, should be referred through the proper administrative channels before it is presented to the board for consideration. Should a large number of the public wish to speak on the same issue or topic, you will be encouraged to select one representative to summarize the group's position. And first up, we have Faith Hannah. Hello, Faith.
Hi.
I'm going to turn this timer on just so you know, and if you hear it, I'll let you finish, but go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to start out by saying I appreciate what you guys have done with this board meeting and bringing out a bunch of more information that a lot of us probably weren't aware of, and your support of not shutting down LPO as a whole. I appreciate that. Am I allowed to bring up my phone?
Yeah.
I have a lot of notes.
You betcha. Yep.
So, I wanted to start out tonight by bringing up how I became where I am, how I come to be where I am today. I moved here in 2020. I started out at SHS as a freshman, and I didn't really fit in at SHS or the environment there. It was really hard for me to move whole states and meet new people and not know anyone anywhere around here, and there's so many people at SHS, it's kind of claustrophobic. But when I was about halfway through my school year, I sought help to the counseling center at SHS. And am I allowed to mention staff names?
Sure.
I met Sarah Gosling there, and who's currently the counselor at LPO, but she was the counselor at SHS at the time. And she was amazing. She was funny, she was smart, she was witty, she was super supportive, and she always had the right things to say to the right issues that I had at the time. She was the one that suggested I go to LPO. She was the one that told me about it, told me about the options there. She was the one that helped get a word in so that I could meet with the people there, and the principal at the time was Jeff, and she's the whole reason that I went there, and I wanted to put out her name, appreciation for her for doing that for me. I wouldn't have graduated without her, without LPO, and without the community there. I struggled a lot with depression and loneliness. I didn't know anyone, as I said. I had no friends. And when I came to LPO, I was able to open out my shell. I was able to discover my individuality and who I wanted to be. And I don't think that I would have been able to do that only because the other options were too much for me. There was too many people, not enough staff to accommodate to how many people there were. And yeah, I wouldn't have been able to graduate without LPO. When I came there in sophomore year, I was horrible with attendance. I was truant.
Time's up.
It is?
Yeah, just wrapping it up. You're doing fine.
Thank you.
Do you want, you can finish if you want.
No, that's all right. Thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you. Next up, we have Kristen Oliver.
Hello, hi, obviously I'm Kristen Oliver. I am here tonight to talk about Lake Monterey High School and how it impacted my life. So, Becky, or Dr. Meyer, at the time,
You can call me Becky.
Becky, thank you, was my principal and was instrumental in my success. So it is very difficult for me. I apologize if I break down or start shaking. I am a fourth generation Idahoan. My family's been here over 120 years. I currently own a home in Sagal. I ended up at LPO because I was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness at 13. My parents were told I wouldn't make it to 18. I spent weeks at a time in Seattle Children's Hospital. I went through 5 high schools in 2 years. What I encountered, and previously I'd been in 2 schools. I had no change. It was just because of me being sick. What I encountered in Kootenai County and at SHS was my parents were politely asked for me to no longer attend because my attendance wasn't affecting their reimbursement. At LPO, it was the only place that helped me. I couldn't consistently attend any classes, be around any students until I was there, and they made those accommodations. Hearing every student every day, I think of these kids that have just been told that their whole world has been upended. It is an oasis there. It is a place where I think given if electives actually had stayed on campus, I don't think you would be seeing the decline in enrollment. These are kids like myself, and I say this because Becky and my other teachers at the school, I only attended 2 classes formally, but the rest of my schoolwork was through Children's Hospital. It was something that they knew that I was surviving. I had an aptitude that was greater than what was being offered to me. They made sure I graduated salutatorian and that I had access to scholarships. Through those scholarships, I went to NIC, and then I got my bachelor's in nursing. I know many students where it's the same case and where they've been declined this at other schools. I made sure with my partner of 20 years, he graduated high honors from SHS and is partway through his PhD in engineering. We wanted to come back to this community so that we could help out, and that's what we've done. I first returned in 2022, where I volunteered at Lake Monterey High School at the insistence of some of the teachers who said, no, you need to sign up to be a sub so you get paid. I just wanted, and I see the numbers, I see the breakdown, but I hope that you work with our community members, our students, give us time to access you and access the people in charge so that we can keep the school safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Next we have Alex M. Alex.
So, the reason why I mainly went to LPO was because I went through different schools. I went through the charter school, I went through Sandpoint High at one point, but I was struggling because of multiple things that I was not receiving at the other schools. When I went to LPO, it changed my life. I was stubborn, I was angry at the world. But by the time I ended up reaching LPO, I found a place to where I could actually call home. To where I actually stood my ground and actually helped build the garden that's there right now. I was helping with the fencing, I was helping with the beds there. We ended up making a beautiful garden there at LPO just so that way other people can appreciate what we can do for the school. We've done multiple things when I was there. We ended up helping out our community with recycling the trash around there. We ended up helping them get a bunch of stuff done. We even helped over at the library's garden. And without this school, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be here right now. I know for a fact that I would not be here. It would be a pain to know what happens, but I'm glad to know that I am still, in my heart, a member of LPO. Thank you.
Next up, we have Ellen Ambrose.
That was my grandson.
Okay.
If it sounds like I'm condemning public school teachers, I am not. I know that they have large classes and struggle through them. But until we got Alex into LPO, there was no hope that he was ever going to graduate. The public schools and the charter schools that we had him in couldn't help him. At LPO, those teachers, every single one of them, took him under their wing, gave him extra time that he needed. They were amazing. And I would hate to lose that for any other kids. I know that LPO has kids that struggle with emotional problems, physical problems, mental problems. The teachers there care. And that is family. If you don't think so, go to one of their graduations. We went to Alex's, I was amazed. It was obvious that all the kids and the teachers were family. I've never seen another graduation like it, and I have 14 grandkids. I would just hope that as you progress over the next year or so, you keep all of these kids in mind because they need that school. They need those teachers. They are dedicated beyond what you could imagine. I know that they have an attachment to that building, but if you have to sell that building to keep that school open, do it. Just make sure they have another place that they can be together and not on another school campus, but their own. They really need it, they deserve it. And I would suggest if you know any kids that are struggling at the high school, send them over there because they will help them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ellen. Next up, we have Kylie Cook.
Hi. This is really nerve-wracking.
It's just us. There's not even nobody
It's
here.
just
It's okay.
There's nobody here.
6 or 7 people.
That's exactly right. Don't look left.
Okay. I only got 2 minutes, so I don't know if my timer's going or not, but I have some things to say. So, hi. My name is Kylie Cook, and I'm here because LPO matters a lot to me, and it changed my life. It's had an impact on far more families in the Sandpoint community than many people realize, even Becky herself. Over the years, pieces of LPO have slowly been taken away. Electives have been moved to the high school or completely taken. Teachers have been taken or retired or quit or whatever it be. There's been an inconsistency with principals, and each time something is taken away, it puts more pressure on LPO. But even through all of that, LPO has continued to bounce back, as it was shown 50% to 80%. That's pretty impressive. It's a thriving program because of the students, the teachers, and community, and that's been said pretty clear. But it's about the building. I mean, once you walk in those doors, you're immediately part of the family. You say, and we say that LPO is a family, and that's entirely true, but families have home brick by brick. That building has become the home of LPO. It's where students who struggled somewhere else found support and stability, a place where they could succeed. Taking students who left Sandpoint High School because that environment didn't work for them and putting them right back there defeats the purpose of LPO. As pieces of the school have been slowly taken away, electives, teacher space, you're not just changing a program, you're taking away what makes LPO. This building is LPO. This is my second home. Students have organized food drives for the food bank, helped with community fundraisers, worked on environmental projects, and built things that give back to Sandpoint. And this community cares about LPO. When you take away the building, the electives, and the space, you aren't just moving a program, you're taking away LPO. So I just ask that you give the community time to try to help with this. I mean, I'm sure that there are plenty of people out there that would do whatever it takes to keep LPO in its building that it's in, you know, and to keep electives and to get kids enrolled there and to help you with whatever money it is that you need made, because we love that school and the building and its electives. That's really all I have to say. Thank
you. Thank you, Kylie. Well said. And good job. I know it's scary to get up and talk in front of a bunch of people, but you did great. Next up, we have Bart Golke.
No one gets it right.
Oh, it's Gutke. All right. Sorry, I was
No worries.
close.
Good evening. My name is Bart Gutke. I'm a father of a student at LPO who has autism and ADHD. From the time my son was in kindergarten, he has struggled in school. It's too loud, it's too chaotic, and it's impossible for my son to learn in the standard cookie-cutter school environment. He was in the system for 8 years, and this system has failed him. He was miserable every day and hated school more than anything. By the time he was in middle school, he was in his breaking point. His mental health was at its lowest point that it's ever been. He was going to drop out of school or commit suicide. Then we found LPO and our lives changed. The staff and the students are on a first-name basis. It's quiet and peaceful. It's away from the other campuses so kids there can be themselves and not worry about being judged or ridiculed. They value building relationships with the kids over their grades. These are the things that are important to Jack and many other kids in this community, not extra electives. Because of LPO, my son now has a bright and promising future. LPO is more than a building and its teachers. It is an autonomous place where kids who learn differently can go and feel proud about who they are. It's a place where kids don't feel judged and where they don't have to worry about being different or bullied. LPO is a huge part of what makes our community special. To move LPO to trailers behind the high school where these kids would be marginalized and looked at as second-class citizens would be a travesty to this community. One of the biggest contributors to the success of LPO is its autonomy. It has its own atmosphere and a completely unique learning environment. The sense of safety, individuality, acceptance, and pride that LPO provides can be achieved in no other way. My son will graduate this spring, so I have no dog in this fight other than a citizen of this community who knows firsthand the amazing things that LPO does for vulnerable kids. These kids are worth fighting for, and they deserve LPO. Please don't trade our kids' future for the almighty dollar. Thank you.
Thank you, Bart. Next, we have Jeanette Gutke. I got it right that time.
You did, thank you.
And I'm not texting, I'm just trying to redo my timer.
Hi, my name is Jeanette, and I have a son who attends LPO. The school is important to me not only because it has made the quality of my son's life so much better, but I've also seen the alternative. I attended a high school where the alternative school was next to the high school. We had integrated classes. My brother attended the alternative school. He was a kid who at 9 could take an engine apart and rebuild it, but he was never able to read past the 5th grade level. While the alternative school was the better option for my brother, having the integrated school was not. He was never able to escape the kids he grew up with that had tormented him since kindergarten, labeled him as stupid, and constantly put down. He was mocked when he would come into the integrated school. He was told to go back to the trailers, called a trailer park boy. He was never able to start over to experience a different type of school. My brother did not graduate. He did not have the opportunity that my son has had. My son will graduate this year. This decision doesn't affect us, but it will affect every child like my brother and my son, and every child who comes next who has struggled in the traditional school system. Moving the alternative school would be detrimental to these children. You are putting an already marginalized group of children back into an environment that failed them. And I think they deserve to have the experience that my child was given at LPO. And I would like to thank the staff at LPO because my son wouldn't be graduating without you. And he means so much to us. Thank you.
Next up, we have Ryan Corsaro.
So I just want to start off with thanks to LPO, I get to graduate next month. And it's definitely before that it was big rough patches. I was on the football team at the high school freshman year, and went down a weird path, was going through a bunch of head stuff, and went down a path of drugs and alcohol, and led me to probation. I'm now a year off probation, and nothing on my record. And thanks to LPO, I'm ahead on my credits. Being at the high school, I was just skipping all the time, having fun. It didn't really bother going to class. But now, being at LPO, I noticed that when you have teachers that seem to care a little bit more, noticing that you're not doing okay. Like, just this couple weeks not doing so well, I lost a best friend of mine last week, and I got kicked out. So we're doing well, and thanks to everybody at LPO, I'm keeping my head up. And without half the people there, like Alex said, I probably wouldn't be here right now. But with everybody helping me keep my head straight and guiding me into what's right, definitely wanting you guys just to keep LPO going, because a lot of those people do care for us. Not to diss on the high school, but I didn't think they didn't really care for me much. So, thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. Next, we have Levi Dumars.
this, but when it matters, you know it matters. So I started off at St. Paul High School. I was playing football, going through the motions, doing stuff, got caught up in drugs and alcohol, like most of the kids that go to LPO. And I'm not gonna lie, we get that rep. But that's because we go from the bottom and we work our way up. We don't quit. Ryan's not a quitter. I take Ryan to the gym. I've seen him go through a lot. He's not a quitter, and LPO is also part of what makes him not a quitter. And I started off at St. Paul High School. I got lost. I found drugs. I found alcohol. I lived in my truck for 11 months. And this family took me in, gave me a place to live. And LPO was a place because St. Paul High School didn't see me as fit for them anymore. So I went to LPO, and I put in my effort, put in my time, and they gave me family, they gave me an education, and I appreciate them a lot, and couldn't see myself without them. I just hope that we can keep LPO, and busing them to Sandpoint to different teachers, that's not going to work out because family is tight-knit. Going to a different school, that's not tight-knit. And that's what makes LPO different. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Terry Pardini.
Hi, I'm Terry Pardini. Several of you know me. I'm a retired 31-year employee of the school district. I spent the last 20 years of my career at the district office, but I wore about 5 or 10 different hats, which took me out to the schools a lot and the school offices. And I planned on getting up here and reminding Becky when we were both kind of new and she was at LPO how important the school was to the kids, but Becky gets it, and you almost made me cry, Becky. The program is so important, and I'm sure that you're all aware, but for kids to go to this school, they have to be tagged as at risk. That's one of the criteria. And most of them, you've heard them speaking here and their parents, that the regular schools, the traditional schools, didn't work for them. And most of these kids, I'm sorry to say, I know that you guys are struggling to figure out what to do. And I know that there's hard decisions to be made, but I honestly don't think that it's going to continue to be successful for these students and students to come if they're thrown into a campus with these kids that are judging them, that they've gone through elementary school and maybe junior high. It just won't work. What works is that they have their own space. And I loved Becky's slide that says, it's the people, not the place. Well, that's 50% true. It is the people, and the LPO staff, for all the years that I worked and the comings and goings of different staff there, they all had the heart for those kids in that program, as did Becky as the principal, and many of our principals there. But it's still also the place. The place matters. And giving them the ability to have some distance and to be themselves without worry of the bullying and the teasing and the condemnation that they got before, I think is just so important, and it's important to their success. So I just urge you to try to find another way, another place for them. And I've been very involved with the Canada Theater. Is there any way that we could maybe get the Lincoln Elementary School, because it was Lincoln Elementary School, can we get it designated as like a historic landmark? Because if we can, we should be able to get grants to fix up the building, and I know that ADA counts and enrollment and all that, but I'm really confused because I've heard it's because the building's falling down. I've also heard that it's because they don't generate enough ADA. So, I don't know, I just urge you to please try to find a better way, because we have thousands of kids in this community that would not only not have graduated, they would not be successful human beings right now if it wasn't for that program.
Thank you.
And it's due to their space as well. And thank you.
Thank you. Rand Rosecrans?
Spoiler alert, if you don't like seeing grown men cry, it might be time to leave. I thought a lot about what I was going to say here tonight, and I decided that I'm going to use the method I used in Alaska for many years, and that's simply to get up here and speak from the heart, not from a speech, not from anything else. As I stare out at these beautiful faces here that I've had part of the impact on their lives, and as you've listened to the passion that they put here, I've told them a couple things. I've had teaching moments. One of those is don't read something on social media and believe it's true. I want to thank the school district, and I want to thank the board for having 10 wonderful years of working with absolutely fantastic human beings. I've had 40 years, I started in 1986, and I don't want to pontificate, but I've had a lot of experience with this age group. And they're fearless, and they're our future, and they're brave. Thank you for listening tonight, but thank you more so for educating all of us as to what the situation is. I'm an eternal optimist, and I'm just going to say it out loud. I know you folks have worked hard at what you've done, and I don't in any way want to take away from that has been planned. But I don't believe, and of course, I don't have a dog in the fight anymore, because this is my last year here. And I'm not in any way want to come across as a bitter or disgruntled employee. What a privilege, what a blessing. How beautiful it has been to spend my days with these young people and attempt to influence them. And one of the things I've tried to tell them is, don't say you know what they're trying to do, or you know what they're thinking. Don't attack people on a personal level. We have got to do more, not in just this community. Sandpoint is a beautiful place. I'm a native Idahoan, and I just happened to land here because my wife came back with my signature stamp and forged it on buying a place here. I never even saw it. Thank God for that. Thank God for that, because I've had 10 years of being able to spend here with these young people. But my entire career, for 40 years in one way or another, has been working with this age group. And I'm here to tell you, they're the most important, blessed resource that we have. And I know that you have plans, and I know you have numbers. I owned a business myself for 13 years. I know about projections. I've worked alongside administrators. But if there's anything that we can do as a community and as a people to change the course of this, I'm not going to be stubborn and say, we have to be in that building because it's the only thing that'll work. I admire you, Becky, for having made another plan. I see what you guys are doing, and everybody says it's all about the dollar. Well, duh. At the end of the day, we have to think about that dollar. But what that dollar does, I've stood by, I've dug graves with the families. I've had many experiences in Alaska that formed me into saying and having to stand up and say what you believe. And I believe that we can keep LPO open. I believe that there could be a way. Now, like I said, I don't want to, when I say that, take away from the hard work. I've also served on and been elected to boards. And that ain't no easy gig, because you're not going to make everybody happy. That's not going to ever happen. But the fact is how badly we need a space like that. I think a few of the people that have talked about their children tonight and how, my time's up.
You're
okay.
Finish. You're fine.
You're going to let me finish?
Yep.
You're going to be sorry you did that. Okay. What I'm saying to you, and what I have to say is this simply. If there's any way that we can stand together as a community, this place is special, and if you don't believe it, go shopping down at Costco and have the little old grannies run over you trying to get to that thing in front of you in Coeur d'Alene. We're a different place. We are a special place, and we have to do everything we come together. And we're not just serving and taking care of those kids. By serving the young people that need what LPO offers, we're taking care of every one of us. Because I say this to people often, we'll take care of them now, or we'll take care of them later. And that sometimes that other later isn't the best outcome. And so all I want to say is thank you for your work. I appreciate what you do. And I want to remind my students, remember, check things out. before you charge forward with him in this whole thing, because this is a very emotional issue, and I'm trying really hard to discipline myself to walk away. I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for this, and I want to say to my kids something I've always said. There is always hope. There is always hope. Okay? Thank you very much.
We're going to move on. I know this is a long meeting. I want to thank everybody for coming out and talking. This is important, right? This is democracy. This is dialogue. If we don't have this stuff, we lose it. And I know that it's emotional. It's emotional for all of us. The program is important. The program is not going away. We are going to figure out a way to make this work. But I just want to thank everybody for coming out and being a part of this. So, with that said, moving on, we're going to, and just so you guys know, you guys can bounce if you want to, just like the earlier group. And again, I appreciate all of you for coming and chatting.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
All right, next up we have the consent agenda, and I will entertain a motion for approval of consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Next we are moving on to board action items. First up we have the K-6 English Language Arts curriculum adoption, and we have Assistant Superintendent Casey McLaughlin to give us
I would like to invite all the teachers and staff that took place or took part in this. All right, so we had a great opportunity this year to do a K-6 English Language Arts adoption, which doesn't come along too often, so we were pretty excited to have this happen. I want to introduce Lisa Nakalroy, who will take you through a good portion of this, as well as, and I'll just point to all the people who helped us. We have both parents and teachers helping this project, so we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Perfect, so we have, as you can see, we had all the schools, all the elementary schools take part. If you were a staff member that piloted, would you please stand up? And let's give them a right, and we also had a lot of parents and community members who helped as well. And we had a content review team made up of community members. So if you are a parent or community member that helped on this, if you could stand.
all by herself.
All right, you go ahead to the next slide. So a little bit of background. Where have we been and where are we going? So first of all, our last formal ELA adoption was in 2018, and that was a Ready Gym curriculum. But since then, of course, things changed, right? Our multi-year data shows that both our IRI, which is our Idaho Reading Indicator, and our ISAT scores indicated that we needed some change. So first of all, our science of reading. Okay, the state of Idaho has recognized the science of reading is very important, okay, to curriculums. Also, writing and grammar conventions were areas that we saw that we needed, right, some support. So the next part was state changes, right? We have new revised ELA standards, which happens often. And of course, our dyslexia legislation, which you're familiar with every student graduates reader. And I just want to point out that our ELA advisory committee is 50% staff and 50% parents and patrons. So I'm going to hand it over to Lisa McElroy, who's done a fantastic job on this pilot.
Awesome. I'm super excited to be here to describe the process as it relates to how we evaluate curriculum and ultimately how we arrived at the recommendation for you tonight. All right, so as Dr. McLaughlin has mentioned, our committee is made of teacher representatives, not only from each grade level in each school, but also representing newer teachers and also seasoned teachers. We wanted to make sure that this group represents larger schools and small schools. Additionally, a parent or a patron representative to represent each school. In addition to that, we had a district office staff, our ICs that are here tonight, to support, along with myself, to support the behind-the-scenes facilitation of the process. And then new this year, as Dr. McLaughlin mentioned, a content and review committee was developed to read and review all student materials. So you can see the graphic there, just sort of the process on a page, as I like to call it. First, we spent time learning about the science of reading and our ELA standards. That was followed by exploring curriculum options, developing a rubric, and then really coming together as a committee to score those options on the rubric. So our goal tonight, our hope, is to share the rigor and the scope of this process so that when you are tasked with the final puzzle piece, the decision to make for adoption, that you can do that confidently. All right, so how do we evaluate curriculum? How do we get here? What are the steps? So very simply put, number one, we spend time learning together and building a shared understanding of language. Then we gather input from our team, and then we develop an evaluation rubric. We decide how are we going to evaluate what we're looking at, and then finally we pilot our ELA programs. So I'll walk you through each process. To begin, we dove in with our full committee, our parents and patrons, and we learned about how the brain learns to read, the science of reading with the Scarborough's rope. You might recognize this as in the hallway when you come in. This is a theoretical model that describes the essential components that go into becoming a skilled reader. So we had all of our parents and patrons make one of these with our teacher teams, and then we really dove into our state standards, which looks like a lot, but we did a highlighting activity where we actually found where the Scarborough's rope lives within our ELA standards to make the connection between the research and what we teach. Then we just decided, what do we want? What do we want from an ELA program? Of course we want it to follow the science of reading. Of course we want it to be robust and relevant, but what's important to our teachers and what's important to our parents and what is important to our students? So we took the time to gather input from our committee. You can see they were written on the whiteboards and then captured with a camera. We wanted to focus on encoding and grammar and writing. We want it to be engaging. We want a variety of genres to be reflected. We want it to be teacher and kid friendly, have strong vocabulary. So at this point, we wanted to make sure that what we evaluated not only demonstrated the science of reading, but also reflected what was important to us locally. So we combined these two items to develop our own LPOSD rubric. This is what that rubric looked like. You can see that it was scored on a point scale from 0 to 2 points, and it included 15 pages and 13 criterion. Those criterion included everything from phonics and decoding to reading comprehension, vocabulary development, writing, grammar, and conventions. But then at the very bottom, you can see our local education agency priorities. There were 3. It was really important to our committee that our students have books in hands. It was also really important to our committee that the reading achievement that students were able to achieve after each pilot was reflected, that we measured that. And then it was also really important to our committee that we did the same thing with writing. So we added 3 elements to that rubric. Okay, so I use this image just to explain simply a very complicated process. Piloting curriculum is a lot like buying a coat. A lot of companies are going to say, I have the best coat, it's the prettiest, it's the best. It's not until you truly try it on that you can really determine if it's a good fit for you or your area, your region. So the piloting process for teachers looks like a kickoff training for each program. We've got to figure out, how are we going to wear this coat? What are the pockets like? What is the zipper like? Parents and patrons also have access to all of those same digital materials. Additionally, all materials, both print, digital, and anything needed for lesson and activities is provided to teachers. And then parents and patrons are offered an opportunity to check those items out through a district office. The really encourage teachers to pilot each program with as much of what we call as fidelity as possible. It's really a fancy way of saying, try the program out the way that it's written and designed to be implemented to the best of your ability. We really want you to fully explore the pockets, so to speak. Make sure that you try that hood. Make sure that you understand all of the components of what that program has to offer. And then we also think it's really important for our parents and patrons to have an opportunity to try it on through observation. So we offer a walkthrough opportunity so that they can see the program in our real classrooms. All right, so I wanted to just highlight this grade band describes, here's the Scarborough's rope, now you can kind of see it as it relates to the program CKLA. This represents the primary grade band, kinder, first, and second grade. And as you can see, skilled reading to the right. But this grade band is broken into two sections, what's called a knowledge strand, or the language comprehension part of the rope, and then the foundational skills strand, or the word recognition part of the rope. So here to give you a bit of a snapshot into what this looks like, next slide, is the incredible Mrs. Keely Keel from Southside First Grade.
I'm not disappearing, I'm just grabbing some materials. Hi, thanks for letting me come speak to you. I am, like Lisa said, I teach first grade at Southside Elementary. I've taught first grade for 11 years now. I'm super, super passionate about teaching kids how to read, especially in the K through 2 realm. It is super, super important that we're teaching decoding and all those things explicitly. It is when kids are really diving into text, learning how to read, learning all those patterns, and eventually once they get to the older grades, then they're reading to learn. But they won't get that foundation if they don't start, at that step. So one thing I really love about CKLA is the articulation pieces. So there's a digital platform. The articulation is really important, especially in younger grades. Talking about the way their mouth moves, right? The vowel sounds. Like, kids are visual learners, especially at that little age, so they need to be able to see what those sounds look like. One thing CKLA does really well is they show these videos so kids can actually see what it looks like to form these sounds. Along with that, they have just really awesome text. I'm obviously biased because I'm teaching it and it's so fun, but really awesome text. This is called a decodable. I'll pass that around so you can see. But anytime we learn a new skill, a new vowel pattern, it is highlighted in the book. So kids are already able to grab this book once they've learned that pattern and get access to it without having to struggle to read it. One thing, especially in the early literacy grades, is they want to read books that they can access. They're not going to love to read if they're struggling through every single book. And so one thing CKLA does really well is just be able to share those vowel patterns, those different skills. Another thing that it does really well is just the writing component. A big thing in first grade, but also as we get older into other grades, is writing. Writing is hard. It's really hard to get your thoughts onto paper. And so we start at a very young age with just getting writing right off the bat. We're just going to start writing. We're going to use our pencil. In kindergarten, they learn a lot about how to actually hold your pencil, get that print going, and then they actually have tons of reps and practice to do it. So something that's really awesome about that skills strand. One takeaway from the skills strand of the primary grades is I have kids in my class that want to read during their free time. During center time at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, you can get a Chromebook, you can do the center, you can do this. They're like, Miss Keel, can I read Green Fern Zoo? I'm like, yeah, go for it. Like, they're excited to do it. And for me, that, as a trained teacher, it's so awesome to see. So, I just want to touch on the, like Lisa mentioned, there's 2 strands. So there's that skills component where they're really learning the decoding, they're learning the pieces to actually put it into action. Now we have that comprehension piece. The big thing about the knowledge strand is it's building background and really high vocabulary. So we kind of want to take that lift off kids because especially in the K1-2 level, they're not reading big text yet. So asking them to read a huge story and then remembering what they read is a lot for them. And so the knowledge strand kind of takes that lift off of them, brings more vocabulary in, but then lets kids actually talk about the stories that I read to them. So now they're able to listen for that comprehension, have those turning talks together, and then eventually when they get to older grades, that skills and knowledge kind of start combining once those decodable skills are actually memorize, well not memorize, but learned, and they're repetitive and they can kind of get there. One thing I want to share, can you go to the next slide for me? I have a few samples. The video on the right was just a student reading one of the decodables, so you can go back and if you want. It's just super cute. I just love to watch kids read. The two middle ones are the knowledge unit that we did about a month ago, all about the human body. Does anyone know how many bones are in the human body?
200
Wow, that's impressive. My first graders thought 34, some of them thought 1,000, infinity, so. But it was really, really fun for them to learn. As you can see, it also does a lot of really good writing. This is first grade writing. I think we did it in December. I don't know how many of you look at first grade writing, but this is good first grade writing in December. They're doing a lot of really awesome skills work, which are then able to transfer that into the writing piece. And then we also do these really cool activities where they have this body systems notebook where they're learning about the digestive system, and which that one is a little fun because we talk about all those things and how that all works. But muscular system, and you talk about how to keep your body healthy, and listening to the outdoor education presentation earlier, like really just connects that piece of how important it is to stay moving and what those things really mean for little kids. And it's great to start early. So anyway, I love the program. I'm really passionate about it, if you can't tell, and my kids are really engaged and enjoying it. So it was fun to do this.
Nice job.
All right, so shifting over into our intermediate strand, I'm gonna reference the Scarborough's rope over and over. You can see now that now we're focused over here in the skilled reading. And so we still have all of these components, but they are now what is called integrated into close reading, unpacking complex text, responding, and then down below morphology, grammar, and spelling. So here to share her perspective from 5th grade at Farmington is the incredible Mrs. Buckmiller.
Hi there, I'm Kristen. I have some supplies as well that I need to get. So we entered into the CPLA through Unit 2, and it was an informational text unit on ancient civilizations of Central and South America. So it was informational text, which is always good for kids to read because it seems to be the hardest for them. So this was our book that we read, so you can go ahead and look at that. Then there was a companion activity book that we used as well that had really great lessons correlated along with it. Spelling, vocabulary, writing, grammar, reading responses, all of that is in here. So that went along with the book. The unit then culminated in a writing project, and they had the chance to write what we called a codex, which is something from Mayan civilization. So students they could choose between writing between the farming methods, agriculture, social, or the social structure of all three of the societies. So these are folded like this because that is like how a codex is folded. So these are some samples from our class, and this was informational writing, and they really did learn a lot about the ancient civilizations, and it was actually, we were all very much amazed at how advanced they were for being so ancient. So that was super fun. One thing that was really important that happened during this is that the text that we had, the one over there, it turned out that had all the information that the kids needed in order to write the project at the end. So it was nice not to have to do random internet searching. All of the information was right there and it was accessible to them. So I really, really did appreciate that part of the curriculum, how it was all right there. So now we're on to Unit 3. Unit 3 is poetry. Amazingly, children or students are really enjoying this. Yes, this is their poetry journal, and it's fun because kids were super jazzed because they actually get to keep this journal. And it has a lot of poems in here, the biographies of the different poets. But in the back, they were most excited to see these pages. These are the creative space pages. So it's like extra journal pages so that kids can write their own poetry. That's not assigned. They can just put down words that they like. They can start writing lyrics, just anything like that. So that was something that was really exciting for them. So another part of this unit that has been very surprising is how much they enjoy actually reciting their poetry. So the lessons guide us through writing certain types of poems, and even with some of those constraints, they have really enjoyed doing it, and they really like to share what they're coming up with. So this is one of my students sharing, and then one of the students also creating over there. One other point that I'd like to mention. Oh no, wait, before I go on. Are you smarter than a fifth grader?
Probably not.
I asked this question because already in this unit, we are only on lesson 5, and I have learned 2 words. Yes, did you know that apostrophe is not just a piece of punctuation? It is. Oh, do you know? Maybe you already know. Would you like to share? An apostrophe is a kind of poem as well. It is a kind of poem written specifically to a person or a thing who is not present. Oh, there you go, now you know.
Who knew?
You can be as smart as a 5th grader too. But wait, there's more. So then just, I do believe this was yesterday or the day before, another word popped up. And I'm like, what? So it's the word anaphora. And I am not a poetry expert, but my kids are becoming one. That is for sure. And anybody care to define anaphora? Well, I couldn't either. I had to look in the text. And so the anaphora is when a poem has many lines starting with the same word. So then we wrote a poem starting with the same word on several lines. And then you can go to more free verse after that. It was really fun. Everybody enjoyed it. And of course, they love sharing them with each other. So the vocabulary I would call excellent. And I'm just glad to see that they have great things that they are learning and also that they are enjoying it. Another point I wanted to mention as an aside is one of my friends is the SEC teacher on the little kid end. And she teaches kinder, first, and second mostly, and works with them. She was struggling to get some success from some kids, so one of the kindergarten teachers pilots this program, and so she shared the reading materials with her, and was with using those reading materials that are meant for regular classrooms, she was able to help especially one student read his very first word. And it was really profound, so it was super fun. So I just wanted to share that it was also helping in an SEC environment. I'm excited about this curriculum as well. I like the content, I like the rigor, but I don't just want a curriculum to be hard. What I like about this one is its accessible rigor, and that's really important. It's thorough, meaning it has spelling, grammar, writing, reading, and cursive, which I also appreciate. I also very much appreciate its ease of use. That is something that saves me time, and I really like how it's designed, and all the materials and lessons are very well designed, and they give suggestions for how to teach them, how to group kids. So I have really enjoyed using this curriculum. Thank you.
All right, so just as helpful as that little peek inside those classrooms is, we've offered that same opportunity to our entire committee. The 2 pictures at the top, you see the wonderful first grade, Coogee Elementary, Lori Boat back there, teaching her first grade the phonics skill ooh, oral articulation of sounds, and some transcription practice. And then we moved over to 5th grade Washington, Mrs. Ward's classroom, she's here as well. And we got to see the same project with comparing and contrasting the Inca and Aztec and Mayan So it was great to have this opportunity. Our parents really and patrons really appreciated this little walkthrough. So next, what happens with the sharing and the scoring? So we've piloted the program, now what? So in 3 steps, we come back together as a committee to give a quick overview of the program, and then a quick implementation guide so we can share some pictures, some student samples like you had today, and then the real work starts with scoring on our developed rubric. So very quickly, you can see this is the program structure grounded in the research of the science of reading. And then in action, the next photo shows our students in our classrooms with our teachers piloting those pieces of that program. So we shared just anecdotally what this process felt like, and importantly, how well it was received by our students. The next slide, we shared some oversight team feedback. Notably, teachers will be excited to read it as it's uplifting, inspires students to think about others, think about the future, think about how they can make a difference in other people's lives. I approve. So we shared the feedback from our content oversight team, and then the real work began. And so you can see in this photograph, I just want to highlight the amazing work of our teachers and even our parents. The questions they asked were so amazing. There's a lot of collaboration here. We sat with teachers and parents by grade level. Like I mentioned, we kind of shared anecdotally, but then when it came time to score on the rubric, teachers and parents were tasked with not only providing a score, but finding the evidence to support that score. So this process took a long time, and here to talk about it from a parent's perspective is Mr. Dunn.
My name's Brendan Dunn. I'm a father of 3 boys out of Northside, 6th grader, 5th grader, and a 3rd grader. Before I get started, I just have some thank yous to give. Thank you, Ms. Colleen Watson, for inviting me to be part of this committee. I do appreciate that. Dr. Meyer, thank you for the committee and the support that they've gotten. The support staff, supporting the teachers and parents, making sure that everything flowed well. Mr. Chairman, and of course the board members. Dr. D'Alessio for opening up her school for us to come in and observe during those classroom times. And of course, Mrs. Majors also for allowing us access to the classrooms. The process was amazing from a parent perspective, not involved in education. I was in the Army, I was in the medical field, this isn't my cup of tea. But what I saw reminded me and uplifted me and reminded me how blessed I am and my children are to be in this school district. I thought we were just blessed because we were in Northside, but in actuality, it really is the school district. There's some amazing teachers, and one of the things that concerned me in the process of this was making sure that our teachers are practicing the art of teaching and not just grok, sending, here's a paper, do it, and send it back to me. In speaking to the staff members and the teachers that were actually piloting the program, before we actually piloted the program, most of the teachers that I spoke to were actually more in favor of the first program than the second. But after going through the rubric and following through and having that dedication and that intellectual honesty of which of these is actually the better fit, them coming back to the second program and going, hey, this isn't the one my first pick, but this was the better fit. They were really dedicated, the hard work and the accessibility of all the teachers to talk to me as a parent, not knowing stuff and explaining the process and, oh no, we're doing this thing because of this reason. And I just really appreciate that. Like I said, thank you for supporting that.
Okay, before we move to that slide, spoiler alert. I just wanted to highlight in this room, you can see the whiteboards in the picture there. We went ahead and posted the scores, the total scores using our rubric for the programs, and then took an opportunity to walk the perimeter of the room. We call it a vertical alignment. So we didn't want people just to kind of camp out in their first grade zone, but we really wanted them to then say, wow, did you see the same trend in second grade? Well, what about third grade? How is fourth grade different or the same? And really capture the entire K-6, and then an opportunity to share out. And so at that point in this process, we asked the committee, let's see if we're ready for a consensus. So we just conducted a good old-fashioned vote. So then the next slide, that vote yielded this result. 94.4% of our committee was ready to make the recommendation for CKLA. So not only did it earn an overwhelming majority, it also scored the highest on our evaluation rubric at every grade level. So these results were then shared with our district leadership team, along with the data and the rubrics to support this. And then we put the materials out, next slide, for community input, teacher's guides, student-facing materials, all materials for every grade level. Filled up this whole boardroom here, and that was on March 4th and 5th, and then also by appointment. And so that process was pretty robust, and hopefully it gives you a chance to understand the work that went into this. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. McLaughlin.
All right, so this is where you come in, to be honest. We're really excited, and I just want to another shout out to this team, because they did an incredible job, and Lisa did an amazing job. So if we just incredibly well done. So first of all, the cost of proposals. So there are different costs that are associated with curriculum adoptions, and curriculum adoptions are not cheap, right? And there are material costs, there's implementation costs, and those are the costs it takes to get people in and to make sure that they are well trained in this. It's not enough just to purchase the materials, we've got to make sure people know how to use them. And then of course we do have our proposal to use. So first of all, you can see this cost breakdown per grade level. You'll notice that there are some differing costs. If you look at the kinder, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you'll notice that sixth grade is significantly cheaper at $54,000. That's because the cost of the materials, there's less books, there's less things as you write in sixth grade. So you'll see that's various. And then if you look, there are some implementation costs estimated at $15,000. There are some different costs built in as well. But I want to point out the discount that Lisa was also able to get was pretty amazing at 15%. So we are able, yes, that's a big deal. We are able to actually get this for far cheaper than we thought. If we can go to the next slide, I can point this out. We've been working hard the last 3 years in our teaching and learning to save money knowing that this adoption is coming. Right, when you have a big curriculum adoption, it is a massive undertaking, and my initial thought was that we were going to spend up to $800,000 on something like this. So that meant that we could not do that in 1 year. We don't have the budget for that. So it was putting money aside for consecutive years to make sure that we could do this. And because at a certain point, a curriculum, right, they do not allow, Ready Gen would not allow us to use their online materials anymore, and so we moved away from it for a lot of different reasons. So we are coming to you with a proposal after all of that information, and if you can go to the next slide, with this proposal. So after extensive review, classroom piloting, data analysis, and stakeholder feedback, the Curriculum Review Committee formally recommends the adoption of Amplifying Core Knowledge Language Arts as the district's K-6 English Language Arts curriculum. And that is what we propose to you to consider. And thank you for your time and the opportunity, and we would like to answer any kind of questions that you may have.
I have a question. So you say the last couple of years, because you were getting ready for this,
right,
you put money aside?
Yes.
How much money do you have aside?
Well, we have around $800,000 or so aside to do that. So
that's in the budget then?
Yes.
All right.
This is well within the budget.
I don't know that I have a ton of questions. I'm glad to see, this book that has all the answers. And by that I mean, I don't like how we're training our students to query Google and Grok.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can do that. That's not learning anything except for how to query Google and Grok. So I'm glad to see that there is an effort being made, a concerted effort of yeah, you got your Chromebook over here, but let's do this. And the kids are actually choosing that. Everybody in here knows from their own experience. If there's a screen open and a book open, you might as well close that screen. or a chore needs to be done, you might as well close that screen. So I really appreciate all of the input and the hard work that goes into it. I know it's not easy, and I love to see the steps that have gone into this curriculum adoption that are different from the last one. So, do you guys have any further questions? No?
Yeah, mine was about if it was in the budget or not, so.
Yep.
So I have one more question. How long did you guys work on this? When did you start and?
We started this fall, and then we did a full 11-week pilot with each program. So this work has been kind of in the works, but the real bulk of it started this fall.
I do have a question, I guess, and it's, I don't know how well it can be answered, but I know Ready Jen had some issues with critical race theory stuff. And so,
Yeah,
what
I
did you
appreciate
find
that.
in this
Absolutely.
curriculum?
It's a great question because we learned from that, and what we did is we created we had that separate community group. That what we did is we had a community review committee, and we did not find any critical race theory or sexual inappropriate material. What we did recognize is that there are some stories, and I think that happened with Rig Jen as well. That some of our teachers said, "Oh, wait a minute, maybe this wouldn't be comfortable for some families." And so we are currently reviewing some of that as well again. So every bit of that was marked with sticky notes and everything else. So then that goes to DLT, to us, and we look at it and say, okay, let's read through each of these to ensure, right? Because even if we have to just give a heads up to parents or something else, maybe it's not critical race theory, we know that, but if it's something that maybe people would have a tough time with, we want to let them know so that parents have that decision-making process.
Yeah, you were able to kind of do that all at the same time.
We
Not
did,
have to
so,
do it all over.
exactly, because you were a part of that before, and it was a great process, and we were able
Great
to.
process.
It really was, actually, in the long run, it really was, because it helped us to identify some things that.
That's what I was alluding to in that, like, what's different about the process. It's important that we have that process, and we didn't. And
Yeah.
thank you, Jalen, for pointing some of these things out, because we did find some stuff that was like, oh, yeah, you know what? There's other options.
Right.
And that's important. So.
Yeah, we've learned a lot from.
Yeah.
And I will point out that the content review committee, which is the one that read every page of all of that, they were based, remember you came up with that library review committee? That's the committee they used to read through. So it was board picked people that read through every of the content. They volunteered their time. So I thought that was highly applicable.
And I want to reiterate how much they loved this curriculum. That group loved it. They did not love the HMH curriculum. They loved this one.
Well, thank you, guys. Yeah, no more questions.
So when do you want an answer?
It's on the
Right now.
Let's get to it here.
Right now.
All right. I'll entertain a motion by Jalen.
I make a motion to adopt and provide core knowledge language arts as LPOSD's K-6 English language arts curriculum for the next 7 years in the amount of $645,812.60.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Good job. That is a lot of hard work. Thank you. And Dave and I are going to enroll in some of that.
If the answers are in the book.
Yeah. We want that book.
Because I can't Google.
Next up, we have alternate authorization, teacher to new, administrator for Colleen Watson. This was presented in the board packet. Does anybody have any questions on this? I'll entertain a motion if there are no questions.
I make a motion to approve the alternate authorization teacher to new administrator for Colleen Watson.
Second.
Any discussion, Dave?
No.
No?
Great student.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Congratulations, Mrs. Watson.
You know, you get paid.
Next up, we have alternate authorization content specialist for Melody Braden at Oak Elementary School. I'll entertain a motion or discussion. If anybody has any questions on that?
I make a motion to approve the alternate authorization content specialist for Melody Braden.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Next up, we have the permission to surplus district equipment. CFO Brian Wallace is here to answer any questions, should there be any. We went through there, it's pretty clear what we're surplusing. Does anybody have any questions on any of that? No? I'll entertain a motion to surplus.
Well, I'll make a motion to give permission to surplus district equipment as presented.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have resolution 2602, which is declaring a board vacancy. This is in the board packet. I doubt there's any questions amongst the group.
I had a question.
Yes, it's not signed around. We can take it back and
pull it.
But first of all, I want to thank you, Jalen, for everything that you've done for this community and on this board. It has been an absolute pleasure to serve with you. And I have no qualms about saying I didn't know if that was going to be the case when you first got on this board. Oh, I know. It goes both ways. But I'll say that your dedication to this community and what you have done has definitely been great for everybody involved. You will be missed, and I hope you won't be a stranger. And we wish you nothing but the best in your family and your kiddos.
Thank you. I can say that I may be able to coach my kids now.
For pay.
Yeah.
For pay now.
You wouldn't let me volunteer either. No, thank you. I appreciate it.
No, we really do appreciate it. And you've been great for this community. And really always serve your constituents with great respect. So, I will entertain a motion for.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 26-02 declaring the board vacancy. I figured that was easiest for me.
Yeah, there you go. I'll entertain a second if I can get one.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. We are now on to board non-action items. First reading of policy, we have 5402, sick leave. Not sure if anybody had any questions or anything else on this. There is one major change right in the middle. It is, we have not new cross references, but just updates. But any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. And that is the end of our non-action items. We'll move on to administrative announcements if anybody wants to keep the drive alive. Here we go. Jan.
Yeah. So Southside we did student conferences last week, and I am so excited because we had a 14% increase to what 70% of families attending last year. We had 84%, and we're still having families come in and do workups, so that's actually an increase, which makes my heart so glad because that's a huge amount of families engaged with their children's education, and the kids were so proud. And I really have to give a shout out to my staff. We know we're in a remote location out of Southside. We have families that work in Lake, we have families that work in Sandpoint. It's not like they can go over in their lunchtime to for their students to like conference. So our staff was really flexible, prioritized family engagement, and we experimented with offering an evening conference and a morning conference to provide some more flexibility, and it really worked. I'm so proud of them. I was just so proud of them.
That's great.
So that's huge. So I just
Good
wanted to
job.
share it.
All right, Sandpoint High School, lots going on. The Business Professionals of America, BPA, have 7 qualifiers that want to real quick, so that's exciting. Our Academica, they're going off to meet at state on Thursday, and we expect them to win again.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. Yeah, they usually win by all. They're great. We just finished up the CTE video at Sandwood High School today. It was super fun to be able to help facilitate that. So hopefully that'll make it to the next meeting. We'll see with the editing. Our staff just finished up going on the industries tour on Friday during the student conferences with everybody else, and that was a real hit. It spoke a lot to me. I got to go to IFG, which I'd never been before. Lived here my whole life, and Lighthouse. Got to hear the history of salad dressing, and so that was really exciting. We're getting feedback from that, and so we can tweak it each year. And then we have ISAT testing started this week. ELA starts next week, so that's exciting. So we can prove how much our students are learning and how much they're enjoying Sandwood High School. I don't know if it was shared at the last meeting, probably not. Wrestling, we had a total of 9 placers down at state, which is exciting. It's slowly growing, so that's a win.
Yeah, everybody.
That's right. And then our boys, as a team, took 7th place overall. There's 1 place behind Lakeland. We're figuring this out. We got some ideas, and we're gonna get that great team. And then our girls placed overall 5th at state for wrestling, and that's exciting. And that's definitely on a positive trajectory. And then our girls basketball team, they took 2nd place overall in the state, and that is huge.
Yeah.
So our dance team placed in the top 10. Let's just call it 9th place. That's great, out of 19 teams. So they learned a lot about competition down at state, and so we're celebrating that. And I could probably talk for an hour about winning going on, but that's all I have for tonight. So.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff going on. Well, that wraps it up. Wait.
Hi.
Hi.
I brought props last time, and I really wanted to just highlight. We just did student conferences as well, and they were incredible. I thought I would get so much done during that day, and I just sat in the front of the building and just ogled over all of my students and how brilliant they are. We also had Missoula Children's Theater come, and we had just under 70 students participate in a theater performance where they practiced all week, which is really incredible. It was The Secret Garden. And we got all of our 3rd through 6th graders for Read Across America these beautiful lights that will illuminate their books. We got them all into the gym, we turned all the lights off, and we got to do a read it. And it was truly magical. So thank you so much.
Okay, anybody? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
I just wanted to tell on student-led conferences because I've been doing them for a very long time, and it's one of my favorite things. I look forward to it because the way the students prepare for it and the way they interact with their parents is just incredibly precious. And there's always some surprises, and I had 2 third grade girls that showed up dressed like teachers, and they were going to be the teacher for their parents, and one of them prepared a little song in the middle of her presentation, and so she sang for her mom and her grandmother, and it was just so incredibly adorable. And so all of that is like, it's cute and it's adorable, but the lasting piece of that is responsibility and accountability and ownership for their learning. And if there's anything that we can do that will promote their learning for the rest of their life is when they truly, truly grab a hold of that ownership. And so, they're my
Amen.
favorite.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. I know one of my coworkers, she was planning on being 15 minutes late, and I was like, yeah, right. It was an hour. She was like, I just stood there and just went over everything. I was like, that's fantastic. That's she's gonna be that old for that long. So
Yeah,
just do it.
good job.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Colleen, anything else?
No, I'm just
Okay. All right.